loves it when I mess up. Hi, Diane up in Chassel. Ruth Ellen is in Virginia. Jack is in St. George. Oh, and Jean is in Mount Vernon, Washington. Okay. So I am back. Hi, Hilda. How is things over in Australia? Okay, so where we were at, but we definitely are on live now. With our SpinFX 10, we have our vertical center, and we have these horizontal lines that bisect the vertical lines right where your needle is going to hit on the bottom and on the top. We also have our 45 and 60-degree lines in here, and each of these lines is, I believe, 1/4 of an inch. Let's just double check that. Yep, that is 1/4 of an inch. Also, the SpinFX, if you notice, every one of our SpinFX has a place for the tack to go down. We are going to use the tack today. I think if anybody has the new SpinFX, if you could let me know, do they have the needle channels in yet as opposed to the puzzle piece? Deborah's here from Nebraska, Teresa from Utah, Margaret. Hi, Margaret from Melbourne, Australia. Regina, my friend. I'm so glad to see you. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the things we're going to do tonight. Okay. Hands up and running. Yay, team. Yeah, that was me. Hi, Jan. Nice to see you. Patsy, you as well. Finally getting you on YouTube. Yeah, I forgot to press the go live button. I apologize for that. We can make it up at the end. Not too worried about it. Okay, so let's take a look at how I've got my pin down here. Normally, we take our pin tack, we put it through the right side, and then we take it out and put it through the back side. Well, this week I was working on some things, and some of you already know this. Hi, Janice. I'm Pepperell, Massachusetts. Beautiful. Beautiful. I love Massachusetts. Um, I love the fish in Massachusetts. It's always fresh. So what I did, rather than going through where I had a lot of bulk, because it was several seams coming together, what I did was I just made 2 pieces of tape, put them together. I drew a line halfway vertically, halfway horizontally, and then I put my pin, my tack right there. And what was really cool is now I can easily line this up and not worry about it being in the wrong place if it comes off. And that's why I put those little lines there. Now, you all know me and you know I'm not OCD. Debbie. Brenda, thank you. North Carolina. Okay, yeah, he feels vindicated, poor guy. I'm always yelling at him. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at a couple different things here, and I already have a few things stitched out for you. This is just the regular stitching on the tack. And this is just stitching in partial rotation on the tack. So let's go ahead and get out our I believe it's a 5.5 inch, but let's double check. It certainly is. Now, what you're going to notice with this 5.5 inch is I have some vis-a-vis marker lines put on here. I don't know why. I used it for something. I put the marker on, never took it off. I don't care. It's okay. I can always wash these off. And then I did put this arrow on today. And why I put this arrow on is because when I line this up, what I want to do is I want this petal to look like it's coming behind this one next to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at my pin on or on my bottom and pull my bobbin thread up. How many of you do pull your bobbin thread up? Can take a pull. Because it is so good to do that. Hi, Linda. Joyce, nice to see you. Nancy Cook from Victoria, Australia. Cindy's here from Fort Worth. Awesome. Um, okay, you know what? Hi, Evelyn. I didn't say hi to you before. I am really happy to see how many of you pull that bobbin thread up, simply because when we're doing quilt as you go, we want the back to look as pretty as the front. Jack says he doesn't pull his bobbin thread up. It doesn't come up. We're gonna have to talk about that. Is it long enough, and are you using an automatic cutter, Jack? A lot of the new machines have automatic cutters, and so when they cut the thread at the end of a seam or a design or something, and they cut that thread, it's too short to bring it back up. So that may be a reason why. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going around my left side of the template. Remember, this is an arc. It's not a straight line, so we want to make our stitches just a tad smaller. Now, I am going to stop where the previous rotation was, and I am going to travel back. And as long as we keep our template exactly where we started with it, we're not going to have any problems traveling back. You see how nicely that goes right over the last one. And I'm going to go ahead and get that thread out of the way. Now I need to get to the next line, right? But I've got the tack in. Hmm? Yeah. Yeah, check that, Jack, because that will help. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to not touch my template, but I'm going to hold my fabric close by, and I'm not going to go fast. I'm going to go nice and slow, and I'm just going to turn my template. I'm letting my foot turn it until I get to the next reference line. Now I'm all lined up, and I'm going to go ahead and put another rotation in here. All right. Again, keeping those stitches slow. Jan asked me last week or the week before, Jan O'Grady. She said, "How do you get your fabric to move so smoothly?" And I think that's probably worth talking about because it can be an issue. So what I do first off is I use a slider, of course, and I use table polish on my slider and the bed of my machine. The other thing that I do is I practice moving. Um, you know, after you get practicing a while, you'll be surprised at how second nature it becomes. And I know that my students kind of probably get sick of listening to me saying practice, but that is what I need to do. Oh, Rita, I haven't seen you in a long time. How are you? Jan, you're going to master it. I know you will. because your techniques are so well done. So I'm just going to do one more here because I want to show you the basic way that this particular template is meant to be stitched, okay? I kind of gave you a good one first. Now, one thing I did realize tonight when I was getting ready for the live, I thought, well, I'm going to be smart and I'm going to go ahead and make some extra lines on this design. When you are on the pin or the tag, you cannot move the template this way or this way to put those extra embellishments in. And that's okay. You don't need them all the time. Actually, I'm going to show you. Oh, I have one more to do. I'm sorry. I'm going to show you a different embellishment. Okay. I thought we were done, but we got one more to do here. And you can cut this off anytime, especially when you're practicing. Don't use your time trying to bury threads on a practice piece. You're better off using that time to practice the template instead of practice the burying of your fabric or I'm sorry, of your threads. Okay, we're going to stop there. You'll notice that after I did the first one, I no longer needed this arrow in here. And the way I determined where that arrow went was I just I turned my template around and figured out exactly where it would meet. And that's not that difficult to do. Okay, come on over here, you. Okay, so now that was the end of that design, and that would have been 16 rotations. So now we're going to do these 4 to meet up with the original 4. And what these are going to be is these are going to be complete rotations. Huh? Cassie is here from Livonia, New York. Welcome, Cassie. It's nice to have you here. Now there is something else. Kathy Dewey. Oh, I knew that. Okay, something else I want to put in here. Let me see if it will work. There we go. Now there is the website where you can find these SpinFX 10 templates. I have been remiss in not showing you guys where you can find these when we have our lives. So here we go. Now you'll notice this one, I just went totally around, totally up and down, making sure that I hesitated on that top piece. Again, I am now going to just slowly move my way over to the next reference line. There it is. Now I'm going to go ahead and make another complete rotation. Again, making sure that I keep those stitches a little smaller than I normally would. You know, it's really kind of funny because we probably don't think about this a whole lot. Our machines can't do anything but make a straight stitch. No matter how fancy it is or how sophisticated the machines are, they still can only make a straight stitch. It's by taking the number of stitches, the length of the stitches, and the direction of the stitches that help us to make all these beautiful designs that we like. I've got one more after this, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to go in and echo this. And I do like the echoing. As far as I'm concerned, echoing is a skill and it's a beautiful skill to learn. We have a question. Hi, Kath. Right where you're at. Unless is it personal? You should be able to ask, Kathy, it shouldn't be a problem. And if you are feeling uncomfortable asking it here, you can always email or text me. Hi, Sue from Texas. I'm sure you're having some warm weather down there as well. Okay, here is my last rotation. And then we're going to break thread. There we go. Now, this is my last rotation. I can quit here, but if I quit here, then I am going to have an empty hole at the bottom where the rest of the rotations have a circle on them. So I'm just going to go ahead and, whoops, I moved my template, and I'm going to close that circle up. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut my thread off. Now, this is a great spot to take the needle off if you want. I'm not going to yet. I'm going to leave it on there. Hi, Kathy from New Jersey. Hot Texas, yeah. Wow. So what I want to do is I want to show you this little echoing. I think that's a sweet way to echo it. You can go out as far as you want on this. And if you go out a ways, what's going to happen is you're going to get a real cool cross hatching in here. And I think I've got enough time to show you that. So what I'm going to do, I am going to get the next largest template that I have. Yeah, and I'm going to this is why I kept that tack on. I am going to buddy up the tack with the bottom of my template here. And what that's going to accomplish, you see, I'm not putting it through the template. I'm just putting it at the bottom here. What that's going to accomplish is it's going to make sure that I have stitched my template the same distance from the rotation each time. Oh, okay. Okay, Kathy says, I am about to do some coloring on a pre-printed whole cloth quilt designed for hand quilting. I machine stitched it instead. Good for you, you certainly can. Should all the blue printing be removed before I use the pencils? Did you put the blue printing on, or was that something that was printed onto the cloth? We need to know that first. Okay, so let me know that, Kathy, and then we'll go ahead and we should be able to answer that question for you. Because it's different if you do it as opposed to if they do it, because you may have used a water-soluble pencil to do it. Okay. And if huh? Yes, Ken just suggested if it was put on by the manufacturer, chances are it's going to be a permanent color on there, and yes, it will. But I actually have something that will work for that, if in fact it is. It is printed by the manufacturer, so chances are that will not wash out. So my suggestion would be to yes, this is a one size larger. The templates, Jan, I'm squirreling again, guys. I'm sorry. The templates come in 5 different sizes: 3.5, 5.5, 7.5, 9.5, 11.5. I used a 5.5 for these rotations. Now I've put down a 7.5. Okay. So Kathy, to get back to your question, hon, what if they have printed it from the manufacturer, usually that's a permanent and it will not come off. So my suggestion to you would be to take a dark colored pencil and outline it like we did when we were kids doing coloring books in school. Does that make sense? Because if you can't get that off, or if the instructions don't give you a way to get that off, um, we're stuck with it. And in that case, quite honestly, from my days of drawing, and I've done some drawing in my day, don't ask Ken, he'll tell you. I always found that making that dark outline always brought the colors more to life. So test it out on a piece of scrap fabric, see if you like the look. I hope you do, and I hope that works for you, Kathy. Let me know how it goes, okay? I appreciate that. Okay, so what I've done now is I've come here and I've echoed, and now I'm going to travel. I'm just going to travel down until the two meet, the two rotations meet. Now I'm going to come back towards me a quarter of an inch, and that's why I'm turning this. I want you guys to be able to see this. There we go. That'll be better. So now I'm just going to come up a quarter of an inch this way, and there we go. And I know I'm a quarter of an inch because I can just see this line of stitching come out. Now I am going to go ahead and I'm going to line my template up again, and we're going to make another echo. And it really is that easy. Now you guys got this. I know traveling is not everybody's favorite thing to do, but you guys are all good enough to do it. I know you are. Okay, so you see that I cannot get my template over. That tells me I have not that tells me I have stitched too far. So we're going to come back a little bit. There we go. Oh, now I've gone too far over. So we're going to go back to where I was. Problem was I did not have the bottom corner of this template seated with that tack. Okay. Now I'm seated and now it's going to come out the perfect width. Okay, we're just going to do one more. The other thing I like to talk about when you're traveling, slow yourself down. That's always a good advice. Slow yourself down, but don't stop. Try to keep stitching because when you stop and start stitching, a lot of times what will happen is that you will jerk a little bit, okay? And you don't want to do that. Okay, so there we go. That is one rotation. Now, I'm just going to do a partial second one for you because I want you to see how this builds. This is going to build beautifully. So this is my 7.5. I've already used my 5.5 here, my 7.5 here. So now I need my 9.5. Ah, it's not going to work, is it? It's way too big. Okay, but I can bring it down a little bit and make it work if I really want to. And how am I going to do that? What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my spacing gauge. I'm going to hold it 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch here. Okay, now what I'm going to do so that I know how to line it up perfectly with every rotation, I'm going to get my arrows out here and I am going to put an arrow here and I am going to put an arrow on the other side. And whoops, I need to come over one here to do that. Oops, an arrow there, making sure that that vertical line stays lined up, guys. You really want that vertical line lined up. And now we're going to put the second one here. So line myself up. Again, I'm going to start over here. Oh, somebody might be asking, why did I use a half an inch instead of a quarter inch? The reason being is my needle is a quarter of an inch away from my foot on this side, a quarter of an inch away from the foot on this side. So if I want a quarter of an inch space, I need to make sure that I have room for my half-inch foot. Okay, we got a question. When would you use the extra guidelines on the template for 45 and 60 degrees? Ruth Ellen, that's a really good question. And you know what? You can use it at any time you want to tilt the template. Okay. So if I was doing a border, for example, I would definitely use the 45-degree line. You know, it's all about design and how you want to design the look of the template. So, yeah, it's hard to say exactly what designs we would use them for, but don't forget, you can play with them. So, let me take this out here. Okay. So I'm here and I want to make this come in this direction as opposed to straight up or down. Okay. So what I can do is I can use those 45-degree and 60 and 30-degree lines. The 60 and 30-degree lines are going to work if you have a 6-point crosshair or a 12-point crosshair. They're going to line up with those points. The 45 degrees usually will line up with an 8-point, 12, 8-point, 16-point, that those sizes of guidelines. Does that make sense? Those reference lines. You know, we have so many things that we can do with these templates. The sad part is I don't think we ever will learn them all. Okay, here we go. I'm going to line this up again, making sure that I'm keeping my vertical center here and here, making sure that my arrows are touching here and here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, I'm going to pull my bobbin thread up, and we'll go down. And if you guys want, I could try to come up with some designs. New Mexico. Hi, Patsy. Ruth Ellen, I could try and come up with some designs that use the 60 and 45-degree lines for you, okay? I'll go ahead and I'll put it on the 906 YouTube channel. That's the one I have access to. And I can also put it on Westerly by me, okay? Let's see what we can come up with. I think that's a great question. We've got all these beautiful markings. We should know how to use each and every one of them, I think. So now I'm coming down here. This is going to be my second echo line. And again, I need to travel. And you see how I go nice and slow, but I don't stop stitching. And there we go. I'm at my quarter inch. Now I'm going to move my template. Make sure I'm lined up. Mm, I need to move it down. Whoops, down there. Make sure you keep it on the right line because I almost didn't on that one. Okay, line up that vertical line. Everything looks copacetic. Here we go. Take that extra stitch up on top. Now I'm going to travel down to my center and back up until the stitching comes right out from the side of my foot there. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to line up my marks here. Come on, why isn't it lining up? Oh, because I don't have my vertical line straight. Now I have my vertical line straight. And we're going to go ahead and do another echo. I'm out just a little bit farther than I want to be. That's okay. In the grand scheme of things, nobody's going to notice that. What size thread and needles? That's a really good question too. I use, well, it depends. I normally always use size 8014 needles. And the reason I like the 8014 needles is because it gives me enough room in the eye that my thread does not shred. Okay, I got off here because I'm so close. So that's why I do like it. Now, the other aspect of that is that I tend to use heavier thread for ruler work. So I have tried in the past to do ruler work with silk thread, which is 100 weight. I've tried doing it with 50 weight, 60 weight, 80 weight. My go-to always comes back to 40 weight. The reason that we use different um, different weights of thread is because we want to see the quilting differently. For example, if you're using a really small thread, and remember now, thread, the higher the number, the thinner the thread. Silk is always 100 weight, and I always say it's about as thick as my hair. It's very difficult to sew with, I think. For me, it is. Um, the 40 weight thread, if you put 40 weight king tut, cotton, something like that on here, what's going to happen is the um, the quilting is what's going to be the star. This is 50 weight thread, and I'm using it only because it's a spool I want to use up. Okay. So the 50 weight, you're going to have a good balance of seeing the stitches and the fabric. If you go to an 80 weight thread, those stitches are pretty much going to disappear into the fabric unless you're using a really high contrast thread. So if you want the stitching to be the star, use a heavier thread. And if you want the design to be the star, use a lighter weight thread because what you're going to see is the shadows of those stitches, and it's really going to make it look pretty. I hope that helps, Sue. Jan O'Grady, it's 9014. Did I say 8014? I probably did, but it's 8012 or 9014. The other thing that I've been told a lot is use either an embroidery or a top stitch needle. The top stitch needle is going to have a bigger eye yet. Okay. And you want that thread to have a lot of room to move here, because what happens if the eye of that needle is small, what is happening is your thread is being dragged across it over and over and over again. And every time that happens, it creates friction, and friction creates heat, and heat destroys thread. So that's why a lot of people end up getting shredding thread, is because they need to get a bigger needle in there with a larger eye. Does that help? Okay, the thread in the bottom of this one is the same. I don't always have the same in the bobbin, Sue. Okay. I am one of those people that is not afraid to put a 40 weight in the bobbin and a 50 weight or even a 60 weight on top. As long as it doesn't come up and show, we're good to go. Okay. Does that help? I hope so. If you guys have any other questions or come up with anything too between the week that we are here visiting each other, you can always text, email, call me, whatever you need to do. Sue, you're doing fine. You're asking all the right questions, and it's my pleasure to help you through these things. Like I said, don't be afraid to get a hold of me. My husband will tell you I spend about 14 to 16 hours a day in my studio, so we have no life. Okay, I promised you, and we are going to do this. Triangle, triangle. Hi, Allie. We've got from, well, I cannot pronounce your city. I'm so sorry, but you're in Ontario, Canada. That I know. So you are quite welcome. So here we go. As I was looking at this when I was preparing for tonight, I started thinking, you know what? We need triangle designs too. I don't really know, as I've seen many triangle designs. Now our embroidery collections have triangles in them, which I'm very pleased about. But we should be able to do them with rulers too. So with that in mind, that's how I came up with this. So let me see. I hope I can replicate it. Yep, I need a different size. They're liking this? Thank you, Lee. Guelph. Okay, Guelph Alley. I got it. Got it. Okay, so what I now this is also a good lesson too. I forgot what size templates I used. So how do I match up the templates that I used? I look at here and know that I've got approximately 1/4 of an inch around. I can use my spacing gauge. So yes, I definitely used the 3.5 inch for these two. Now this is going to end up being a square, but we're going to just pretend this part doesn't exist. Okay. So I have got 8 reference points, or I shouldn't say 8. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reference points for the triangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put 1 complete rotation on reference line 2. This is reference line 3. I'm going to put another one on reference line 4, and I am going to put some embellishment into it. Now, I got to be honest with you guys. I took out my curly cues, my Spinifex curly cues earlier, and tried to put one in here. It looked really dorky, so I picked it out. Yeah, you know, that's what happens when I just start stitching and don't draw it out first, but that's okay. That's okay. All righty, off we're gonna go. We got those threads up. Remember, reference line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're gonna start on reference line 2, and we're gonna start at the center. Now, you can make these templates go either way that you want. There's not a lot of difference on all of the designs that I've used here. There's one over here where I actually did flip it back and forth. I don't know if we'll get to that. So I'm gonna turn this way just so that you can see it. The other thing I wanna do, let's see if this'll work. Here's reference line 1. Here's 2. Yeah, this isn't gonna work real good, is it? 3. Um, there's 4 and 5. So here we go. We're gonna put, this is our 3.5-inch Spinifex 10. I'm gonna do 1 rotation on reference line 2. Remember, we want to keep this just a little bit shorter stitch length. Pull that camera in a little bit. There we go. Now, to make those little embellishments is so easy. I know all of you guys know how to do this. I'm just going to twist my template until the side of the template touches this line of stitching. And I'm going, I see I have these little marks on here for another project I did. I'm just going to stitch up to those marks and back. I didn't even have to do any additional measuring. That's always a plus. There we go. Now we're going to just twist it in the opposite direction. You want to make doubly sure that your foot is seated well into that corner of the template. Okay, and we're going to come up to here and we're going to come back. Oh, well, there is no size stitch because of the fact that I have my feed dogs down. So when I am doing ruler work, I am my own stitch regulator. Okay, you need to drop the feed dogs so that you can move the sandwich around Sue. And it comes with practice. It really does. It comes, well, look at who's here, Nancy. Welcome, my friend. So nice to see you. Nancy is relaxing tonight out in the woods. I am so jealous. I wish I was up there with her. Okay, so this is going to be the second one. And you'll see, look at here. I've got some real problems with my thread shredding. And I think it's because I have a whole lot of stitches it's going through. And remember I said I wanted to use this thread up? It's not really the highest quality thread. I just want, I I just can't bring myself to throw it away. Isn't that terrible? Nancy's going to have something to say about that because she's seen me throw things away a lot. Pardon me? Practice never hurt anybody, I'll tell you. Well, goodness. Okay, guys, I gotta turn that light on for a second because I got presbyopia. Does anybody know what presbyopia is? You can tell that I've got a medical background. Presbyopia means old eyes. Oh, you invite me up, Nats? I'd love to. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Oh, no, I'm going to Wanda's tomorrow. That's okay. So what I didn't do was I did not clip my bobbin thread. Okay. Quite honestly, that is not the end of the world. And I do this quite often. Hold on to those 2 bobbin threads. Whoops. Put this in here. Put my foot down. Put my needle down. Hold my template. Line it up. Now I'm going to take a few stitches, and I like to take these first couple 3 stitches almost in place, okay? And I do that for a couple of different reasons. And one of them being is I am very, very good. I would say probably even close to expert at making toe catcher stitches. And if you know what a toe catcher stitch is, I hope you're laughing right now. But what it is it's taking off that first stitch and it ends up being huge. And when you put the quilt on your bed, you end up with your toes stuck in it. So Ken's laughing at me. See, I'm farsighted. Yep, Nancy's right. Medical. Yeah, it just means old eyes. Okay, now I'm going to put that embellishment in on the second one. And remember, this is reference line number 4. I'm going to turn that around here, come up and do the other side. And you could do a whole lot of things. It doesn't have to be just like this. This is just the way I did it. Okay, so now I'm going to take my 3.5-inch template out and I am going to put my 5.5-inch template in. All I have to do is find it because right now these templates are all over my desk. Okay, yep, this is the 5.5-inch. So I'm going to go ahead and slip it in there. Now, if you'll notice, I took the 3.5, 5.5, and 7.5. So that's the order that we're going to go in. What's that? Ruth Ellen, you are absolutely right. When I had my quilt shop and I ordered thread and they told me that I had to start charging a dollar for or $10.45 for a spool, I darn near dropped my teeth. When I first started sewing, a quarter was about what we paid for a spool of thread. And that thread that I had was nothing special. It was okay thread, it was good thread. I shouldn't say it was nothing special. It was good, but it wasn't like silk thread or anything like that. It wasn't specialty thread. You really want to talk money, talk about some of those specialty threads. They're gorgeous, but they're a little on the pricey side, so I don't get too many of those anymore. Okay, so here you'll notice I just put it on, I'm just doing my second rotation here, and this is with the 5.5-inch template. Take your time, don't be in a hurry. I think that's where most of us mess up. If I know with myself, if I'm in a hurry or frustrated, distracted, I make more mistakes than ever, especially when I'm distracted. So I have had to learn, and I still do it on occasion. I give in to the temptation to look away from my sewing machine, and when I do that without fail, I come off of the template. So you really want to, have uh, make sure that your room is set up for you and that you don't have a lot of interruptions if you can. Now I've got my 7.5-inch in here and we're going to go around one more time. Don't forget to hesitate up at the top. Don't make toe catchers like I do. Now we're going to come back to center and we're going to rotate. Another thing that I always like to tell my students, Try to stitch in different directions. You see how I turned the template instead of the fabric this time? This is a small project, and most of our quilt as you go blocks are small enough that we can turn our sandwich to a very comfortable position, okay? However, you don't wanna hear about however, but I gotta tell you about it anyway. However, what will happen is if you have a large quilt on there, you're not gonna wanna be turning it around, okay? Ah, Nancy, thank you. Enjoy the journey. That's my favorite saying. So what you don't wanna do is you don't want to be, turning that big quilt. Now when you look at this machine I have, I'll back it up and show you. This is a really small throat. And when I'm doing quilt as you go on blocks, this is the machine I use. This is my favorite machine. This used to be Ken's machine, but most of you already know that. Okay, so what I want to do here, I want to show you how I'm going to measure this, and I should have left this on. I'm sorry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this over to the baseline, which is line 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. I am, I could. If this was a seam, this is how I would do it. I would travel in the seam allowance, just like that. And if you have a sashly, you can use that. You can use your 12-inch arc, doesn't matter, but I'm just there we go, 1 stitch short. Now I'm only gonna stitch to this next rotation that I put in. Okay, now you're gonna ask, do I travel or do I cut thread? Okay, you know, it's a personal decision. It really is. I don't mind burying thread. I like things to be consistent. And you'll see I have one line of stitching here, one line of stitching here. So I know me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to break thread and then I'm going to come back later and bury it. Okay, so there we go. You don't have to. If you want, I'm going to do the next one, this next one next. And we're going to come from this point. Yeah, that's about right. And take that off. There's that sneaky little bobbin thread. Boy, it's short tonight, isn't it? Okay, put my foot down, put my needle down. Remember to wait until you put your foot down to put your needle down. Otherwise, you can end up crashing into this foot. Now, my machine has nothing automatic. I can't push a button and have my needle come down. But if you can, what could happen, and I know that it has happened, okay? If you come down, you're going to crash your needle, that's a needle bar, right? You're gonna crash your needle bar into that foot. It's going to really mess things up, and it could even throw your machine out of time, which means you're going to be without a machine for a while it gets fixed. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna come in here, take that hesitation stitch, and come here. And I'm gonna stop at the next rotation, okay? I'm going to cut this off because this is a practice piece. Now, what you can do is you can come in here, use your 12-inch or I'm sorry, use your spacing gauge. You're gonna line yourself up. Now you can stitch right on the previous rotation. Or if you're really good at traveling, you don't even need the template, that's good too. And you're gonna come back down. Now, the big question is where are you gonna stop on here, right? Quite honestly, I guess. A lot of times I just simply guess. And what I do is I'm looking to see if I can come close to where this comes straight across. Okay? And it's going to come straight across about 2 stitches below, and that's just about right. And whoops, right there. You know what? I'm only like a half a stitch off, guys. So that isn't too bad. Let me fix that. I'm going to go ahead, back up a half a stitch. And I'm going to come in here. Now, I was really trying to be precise because I was trying to match up these two stitching lines, these two rotations. If you're doing this truly on a triangle, you don't have those lines to match up, so it won't be a problem. Okay, so there we go. So now if you have blocks in this particular quilt and triangles, what you can do is use this design for the blocks and use half of it for the triangles. Hey, hi, Linda. Oh, don't you hate that when that happens? Oh, I'm so glad you stopped in and said hi. It's so good to see you. Okay, so this is a block or a triangle. Isn't that cool? It really is pretty, isn't it, Sue? I really fell in love with this one. I really did. So that's just something we could do. Like I said, here's your triangle design and there's your block design. Love it. Just one more thing that I want to show you guys, and I'll make this quick. I know we got a little bit of a late start, and I think really what I wanted to show you over here is I started this rotation with the template upright. And then I got to this point and flipped it around and came back down. So even though it looks kind of even, doesn't it? It's not. These are two different arcs. This one is much rounder than this one. It's much rounder on the bottom than this one is. So that's just, I thought that was kind of cool. So I wanted to try that. So let's do a few rotations with the top of the template in the center, okay? I'm going to just turn it around like this. I'm going to put that in. Nice thing about Spinifex, you only need to put stable tape on one side. A lot of our templates really work better with stable tape on two sides, but these only need it on one. We're not going to be flipping these over like we do some other ones. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to do like 4 rotations with it in one orientation, and I'll do another couple rotations in the orientation where we have this in the center. Okay, take that extra stitch so we don't have a toe catcher. Keep those stitches nice and short. When you're moving your fabric, be purposeful, but don't rush it. Take your time. Enjoy the journey, Nancy said, and she's right. Enjoy the journey. you don't wanna jerk it along because that's when you can really make some big and small kind of, uneven stitches, and it does take practice, okay? It really does. Rome wasn't built in a day, and good stitching takes practice. It's like playing a piano. You've gotta practice if you wanna get good at it. And you guys have great basics. You have a great foundation. I know I've had many of you in classes, and I know just how talented you are. So don't give up. Okay, we're gonna come out again. I'll do 4 in this orientation, and then I'll flip it over and do 4 in the other orientation. Remember, these are Spinifex 10. You know, can we see it in smaller petals, Nancy asked. Well, of course we can. All you gotta do is ask. Okay, I'm just gonna throw this out there. Okay, that was 3. I'm gonna do 1 more, and then we're gonna switch her down. And then we'll do it right there. Now, this is a 5.5 inch. And it also comes in a 3.5. Now, remember too, we've got our miniature Spinifex, which this will come in a 2.5 and a 1.5 inch size. That's getting really small. Okay, we're gonna do that. Now, Miss Nancy would like a smaller template, so we're gonna take this one off, and we're going to put the 3.5 inch in. There we go. Here we go, and I'll do it on the opposite side. Don't forget to keep your fabric nice and flat. Go ahead and just kind of smooth it out every now and again. I don't have that right. There we go. There we go. The other thing, don't skimp on needles. Change your needles a lot. I always tell everybody needles are cheap, repairs are expensive. Don't be afraid to change those needles. I actually buy mine in bulk, 100 at a time. And I buy good needles. I don't buy my needles from big box stores. My husband said those that are in the big box stores are not extruded, they're stamped. So they're much more apt to have little burrs on them, which will shred your thread. And you don't want that. We want nice, smooth needles. Okay, and we're going to do another one here. And then we'll have 4 and 4. And you'll notice it does not matter which way you go in your rotation, okay? To the left or to the right, it does not matter. There we go. How do you like that one, Nancy? Hey, that's kind of a cool design just like that. Never thought about doing it that way. I wonder if we can make a bow out of this. I'm gonna leave it to me to figure something out, right? You know what? We certainly could. Might be kind of dorky looking, but we could do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 4-inch arc, pull it down here, start right about there. Won't be the first dorky thing I've ever done, but that's okay. This is how we learn. Seriously, this is with the educators, the self-study educators. This is literally how we come up with designs. Normally I do it on paper though, I'll be honest with you. Okay, so now we're gonna come back this way and I need my spacing gauge here. Perfect. Just like that. Okay. So I gotta figure out the ribbon part. Okay, but it would work. It would work. Just take some manipulating, I think. So this is the 3.5-inch size, and this is the 5.5-inch size. Something that's really important. What are you chewing on? One thing that's really important when you are looking at the size of templates, when I say this is the 3.5-inch size, you're going to look at this. He's got something over there he's chewing on. You're going to look at this and you're going to say, well, that's not 3.5 inches, it's 1 3/4 inches. And yes, it is. Because when this says it's a 3.5-inch template, they're talking of the complete rotation. The complete rotation is 3.5 inches. Throw it over the, yeah. So then what this is this is the 5.5, which is this size. So from this side over to this side would be 5.5 inches. From here to the center is going to be 2 3/4. Does that make sense? You know what, Evelyn? You're right. It could be a neat butterfly. I agree with you. Stitch some antennas and little circles at the end. Lorna, good evening. I am using the SpinFX 10 templates. Just put the bed in the kitchen. Put the bed in the kitchen. I'm using SpinFX 10 and I'm using the whole set here. So what we've done tonight is we checked out the 3.5-inch size and the 5.5-inch size. This is we rotated the template for every half of a rotation. So we had the right side up for half of it, and then we made the right side or the top up for half of it. And when I say top, I mean where you can read the words at the top. Okay, so we came up here and did half of it, and then I just turned it around and came back down, twisted it again, up on the right side, then down on the left. So it was just a funny looking design. The other templates, other SpinFX templates are going to be a lot more visible than this is. Okay. We learned how to put the template on the tack and make echoes around the outside of it by using a larger size template. I think this looks like a sunflower, guys. What do you think? I think that those petals coming out behind each other look like a sunflower. Now, you could go a lot further out than this if you wanted to. But the one I think I liked best for this evening was when we took and made a triangle and then we made it into a block. So you could do an entire quilt of triangles and blocks just like this. If they're smaller, you only use two. You only use the 3.5 and 5.5 inch. If it's bigger, you can still come out because this is 3.5, 5.5, 7.5. You could come out with the 9.5 and the 11.5 inch also, and it will work out exactly the same. So I think, thank you, Lee. Oh, good, Sandy. I'll be looking to see you in the morning. Diane, you are quite welcome. It also looks like a lily pad. I think you're right. I do think you're right. So, if we don't have any more, oh, Linda, I didn't see you come in. Hi, how are you? Um, if we don't have any more questions, I guess what we'll do is we'll go ahead and end it for tonight as soon as we pick our template for next week. I cannot forget to do that 2 weeks in a row. Okay. Our template for next week is going to be drum roll. Angel wings. That's a fun template. Awesome. So we will meet you hopefully tomorrow morning. Hi, Suzanne. Um, and if there's no other questions, we'll say good night and let's quilt.